Good morning, everyone. I'm Timothy with CCA Student News. I'm here with Mr. Carruthers, and today we will be discussing the past cases of Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus Board of Education. Good morning, Mr. Carruthers. How are you doing?
Good morning, Mr. Albert. How are you?
I'm doing good. What do you know about these cases in general?
Well, I think the one that has the most impact for me was Brown versus Board of Education, because when that verdict went down in the Supreme Court in the 1950s, it allowed black students to have equal access to education across the country. And that significantly impacted me because I was born in 1961, and some of the effects of that case and that ruling drove my personal educational experiences when I was growing up.
Okay, so when you were in school, was there any type of segregation in any way?
No, there wasn't segregation in my particular school or school experience. I grew up in Detroit, and certainly Detroit at that time of me going to elementary, middle, and high school was predominantly black, but there was still whites going to public schools. It's not like it is now, where the majority of schools in the Detroit public schools are predominantly black students. There were still students of different races.
Okay. Well, saying that, if these cases wouldn't have happened, how do you think the educational system would be today?
Well, I think that if those verdicts didn't come down, that there would be still certainly segregation educationally and as well as in other areas. One of the offshoots of the Brown versus Board of Education verdict was, once segregation in education was struck down, that became the forerunner of the civil rights movement. Brown v. Board of Education was 54, but in 1957, Rosa Parks and the bus boycott movement occurred in Alabama, which spurred on the civil rights movement. So Brown wasn't only significant just in education, but in terms of sparking a movement for social justice, period.
Okay. So since you said that, if I'm gonna go back to my first question. So if these cases didn't have happened, do you think Rosa Parks and everybody else would have did what they did?
I think certainly they would have done what they did, but I think the verdict accelerated the process. It moved the process along faster. I think that what was going on in the country was already taking shape and taking form, and it was happening in different areas. This particular case, which dealt specifically with educational resources for all American children, just happened to take place first.
Interesting. So how does the decisions of all of these cases, in general, all of the cases, being Plessy versus Ferguson or Brown versus Board of Education, how did them decisions make?
I don't think that those cases made me feel a certain way as much as the cases allowed me opportunities for an education. You have to understand, prior to Brown versus Board of Education, in many areas across the country, it was legal to separate white and black students in terms of education. The problem was white students received more resources for education than black students. Literally, my parents, who were born in Mississippi, when they went to school, they could only use used books that white students had previously used. So the white students would get new edition books, and when they got new edition books, the black students in the same geographical area got the used books. White students were allowed to be bused to school when black students had to walk. So what it did was it gave unequal resources to American students strictly based on race. Brown versus Board of Education started the process to discontinue what the result of it was, and we still are dealing with those challenges today, but the result of it was that students got equal access to educational resources that they otherwise would not get access to. So in my particular case, in my elementary, middle school, and high school, I was able to go to school with students of different colors, and we all received the same resources to improve ourselves education. So it didn't necessarily make me feel a certain way. I wasn't jumping up in the air and saying whoopee, but what it did allow was me to find my own path, getting the same type of resources that any other student would receive.
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, that's a good answer. But we're running out of time, and we'll see you next time. This is Timothy, I report from CCA Student News.